Good morning, Birmingham Unitarian Church.
Good morning.
Welcome to all, whether you're visiting us for the first time or have been here many times before. Whether you're joining us here in the sanctuary, remotely via Zoom, or watching this recording later, it's good to connect with you. By greeting our virtual community, we build a bridge between online and in-person participants. First, we'll project on our screen the image of folks who are currently on Zoom, and if you're comfortable, please turn on your camera and give us a wave. Now, we who are gathered here in the sanctuary are invited to turn to face the camera in the back and give the folks on Zoom a wave. If you're with us in person today, we invite you to join us for coffee and conversation in Hodis Hall after service. Hodis Hall is located to the left as you exit the sanctuary. Our newcomer table is a place where visitors and newcomers can meet and chat with members of the congregation and with each other. All are encouraged to drop by. Just look for the colorful sign in Hodis Hall. And if you're with us on Zoom, we invite you to stay on the call for a virtual coffee hour immediately after service ends. Wherever and however we connect with BUC, we are building this beloved community.
The campus of Birmingham Unitarian Church occupies the ancestral, traditional, and contemporary lands of the Anishinaabe Council of Three Fires, the Ojibwe, Ottawa, and Potawatomi peoples. Bloomfield Hills is situated on land ceded in the 1807 Treaty of Detroit. We acknowledge Michigan's 12 federally recognized Native nations, as well as historic indigenous communities in Michigan. We also acknowledge those who were forcibly removed from their homelands, as well as indigenous individuals and communities who live here now. We affirm indigenous sovereignty, history, and experiences.
We seek our place in the world and the answers to our heart's deep questions. As we seek, may our hearts be open to unexpected answers. May the light of our chalice remind us that this is a community of warmth, of wisdom, and welcoming of multiple truths. Please rise now in body or in spirit and join in singing hymn 354, We Laugh, We Cry. We whose journeys are always beginning, we whose mission always awaits us, we whose visions are bent on loving, we gather together here. We gather as a community drawn together out of common need, each toting our own carpet bag of treasures and dreams. We gather together seeking meaning, yearning to understand life in all its dimensions, as it challenges and expands, as it burdens, as it consoles and heals. We gather together with questions, the kinds of questions that provoke us to the path of action. We gather with hope, the kind of hope that pulses on through uncertainty. We gather with tenderness, the kind of tenderness that can only be born from knowing human capabilities as well as human imperfections. We gather wanting certainty and having none, but we are wakeful to possibilities as we seek discernment and gentle judgment. We gather then unbounded, yet closely bound together.
Our story for today is a probably familiar tale for many, and I'll be reading excerpts from Oh, the Places You'll Go by Dr. Seuss. You have brains in your head. You have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. You're on your own, and you'll know what you know, and you are the one who'll decide where to go. You'll look up and down streets, look them over with care. About some you will say, I don't choose to go there. With your head full of brains and your shoes full of feet, you're too smart to go down any not-so-good street. And you may not find any you'll want to go down. In that case, of course, you'll head straight out of town. It's opener there in the wide open air. Out there, things can happen, and frequently do, to people as brainy and footsy as you. And when things start to happen, don't worry, don't stew. Just go right along. You'll start happening too. Oh, the places you'll go. You'll be up on your way. You'll be seeing great sights. You'll join the high flyers who soar to high heights. Except when you don't, because sometimes you won't. I'm sorry to say so, but sadly it's true that bang-ups and hang-ups can happen to you. You can get all hung up in a prickly perch, and your gang will fly up. You'll be left in a lurch. You'll come down from the lurch with an unpleasant bump, and the chances are then that you'll be in a slump. And when you're in a slump, you're not in for much fun. Unslumping yourself is not easily done. You will come to a place where the streets are not marked. Some windows are lighted, but mostly they're darked. A place you could sprain both your elbow and chin. Do you dare to stay out, or do you dare to go in? How much can you lose? How much can you win? You'll get so confused that you'll start in to race those down long wingled roads at a breaknecking pace and grind on for miles across weirdish wild space, headed, I fear, toward a most useless place. No, that's not for you. Somehow you'll escape all that waiting and staying. You'll find the bright places where boom bands are playing. Oh, the places you'll go, there is fun to be done. There are points to be scored. There are games to be won. And the magical things you can do with that ball will make you the winningest winner of all. I'm afraid that sometimes you'll play lonely games too. Games you can't win, because you'll play against you. All alone, whether you like it or not. Alone will be something you'll be quite a lot. And when you're alone, there's a very good chance you'll meet things that scare you right out of your pants. There are some down the road between hither and yon that can scare you so much you won't want to go on. But on you will go. Though the weather be foul, on you will go, though your enemies will prowl. On you will go through the hacking cracks howl. Onward up many a frightening creek, though your arms may get sore and your sneakers may leak. On and on you'll hike, and I know you'll hike far, and face up to your problems, whatever they are. You'll get mixed up, of course, as you already know. You'll get mixed up with many strange birds as you go. So be sure when you step with care and great tact, and remember that life's a great balancing act. At this time, we'll have all of our children and youth join us at the back of the sanctuary as we head off to class.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Paul Vachon. I'm a member of the Stewardship Committee. And first of all, I just wanted to share a little bit of an update as to the progress of the stewardship drive this year. As you know, we are in the third of 4 weeks of the campaign. It ends a week from today. But at this point, we are currently, we've received 121 pledge units, and that represents 65.26% to goal. So we're making good progress, but as you can see, we still have some ways to go yet. So for those of you that have not yet submitted yours, if you could take care of that as soon as possible, please. We are having, of course, as you know, different members share testimonials each week during the campaign. And today I'm pleased to introduce Casey Elderetti, who is a fairly newish member of BUC, and she's here to share what BUC means to her. So, thank you.
Much like we all learn or relearn important life lessons from Shannon's weekly children's stories, I'm loving the part of parenting where I get to learn alongside my kids. At 7 and 9, they amaze me with their knowledge of facts, especially about wildlife. Did you know pangolins are the only mammals with scales? Or that platypuses have venomous spurs on their hind feet? This week we were reading about space, and I learned that what gives planets their round shape is their own gravitational force, their pull. And I like thinking about BUC and our broader community as a circle, not just because of the shape, but because of what makes it hold together, the pull of the people within it, the energy we generate by being here, the way we create something greater than ourselves. What we put in goes to others, and in turn, it sustains us. But it's not a transactional investment. It's not, I give this, I get that. It's more like gravity. We invest in the community, we put in the time, our resources and attention, because we're shaping something that we want to exist. For ourselves, yes, for our children, but also to pull in others, for anyone who needs it. I go to church in large part for my kids, so they can grow into thoughtful citizens, have a community, and learn what it means to serve one. I give because I want this place to be here, not just now, but in the future. no matter if my job changes, if my friendships shift, even if or when my beliefs change. And I have felt the pull of this place over the past 2 years. Shortly after we moved to Michigan, we came to BUC for the first time in Christmas 2022, looking for something meaningful to mark the holiday. We weren't sure what we'd find, but we felt the warmth of this community, its welcome, its presence, its pull. Since then, through some of the volunteering I've done, helping organize the church as we welcome new renters with the Montessori school, learning from the other UUs for Justice in the Middle East group, living our values in complicated times, finding connection in small group with other parents, showing up for religious education, I see how this circle is powered by all of us. It moves because we move. We build with our dollars, yes, but we also build with our presence, our time, our thoughtfulness. We make BUC run. I invite you to feel the pull of this circle, to invest in what it is and what it can be, to help keep it whole, to keep it spinning, and to power it forward. Thank you.
The mission of Birmingham Unitarian Church is to be a free and welcoming religious community that encourages lives of integrity, learning, service, and joy. One way we live out this mission is by giving half of our weekly offering to a nonprofit organization that shares our values and addresses needs in the community. Our recipient for March is the Michigan UU Social Justice Network, also known as MooseGin. MooseGin is a statewide network of UU congregations, other faith communities, and partners working for social justice. BUC and some congregants individually are members of this network. Mary Jo Ebert serves as its director and Craig Stroop as board treasurer. One of MooseGin's functions is to advocate for legislative change on social issues in alignment with UU principles and values. It also organizes or co-sponsors events to inform audiences about justice issues in Michigan, offers guidance on actions individuals can take, and makes connections among people to build collective power. MooseGin was started 22 years ago to create synergy in the work that congregations were doing individually. This is a key part of its mission to this day. With your support, MooseGin can continue to put UU principles and values into action, creating a larger impact for UUs statewide. The ushers will now receive this morning's offering, which is given and received in a spirit of generosity and gratitude. With gratitude, we dedicate this offering to the good work of our congregation and the Michigan UU Social Justice Network.
You must gather yourself into the basket of your skin. Listen to the wind moving its divine puzzle in and around you. Become aware that you are an observer to these events, a sojourner daring to enter the quiet slopes that lead to silence. You must walk away from the sounds of your own voice echoing its way from neuron to neuron, from cell to DNA. Let your thoughts go limp. Help your inner noise change to luminescence. Your focus to the moment when silence and light become one. Seek the place where you are hollow as a straw, thirsty as a desert, open as a window waiting for the wind. We hold each other in our hearts and minds with all our joys and all our sorrows. The joys and sorrows of the congregation that are shared with us this morning are these. We share the sad news that Larry Friedman, member of BUC since 1975, has died at the age of 97. He died in his sleep on March 5th after being ill with pneumonia. During his 50 years of BUC membership, Larry served the church in many ways, including as a member of the Board of Trustees, head usher, choir member, leader of the Humanists of BUC, and organizer of the UU Values Open Forums. Larry was a good friend to many and will be missed. Larry's memorial service is scheduled for Saturday, March 29th at 11 o'clock at BUC. Larry's daughter, Emily Jones, who died in October, will also be remembered at that time, and a reception will follow the service. From Craig Daly, on March 9th, 1965, exactly 60 years ago, James Reeb, a Unitarian Universalist minister from Massachusetts who had joined in the Civil Rights March from Selma to Montgomery, was beaten to death by a white mob. Remembering such brave acts of courage is inspiring. The chancel flowers this morning are given by John Bruce in memory of Victor J. Bruce and Mary Alicia Bruce. We remember those experiencing losses and those facing health challenges. We pray in whatever way we pray for all those affected by war, by hatred and violence. We pray for peace. The cares of the world are many. Even when the cares of the world weigh on us, may we find joy in our connections with each other and in the pleasures that life holds. Let us take care of one another and ourselves in all the ways we can. Let us make this a safe and welcoming place for all. As we hold each other in our hearts and minds with all our joys and all our sorrows, whether spoken or unspoken, let's take a moment to be quiet together. Please join in singing hymn 1048, Ubi Caritas. Where there is love, there is the divine spirit.
This hymn is in the Taizé tradition, and we are going to use it this morning as a meditation. So we'll repeat it several times, guided by the piano, and the last time we'll sing a cappella together. So please feel yourself in this moment as you sing this meditative hymn with me.
The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both, and be one traveler. Long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other, just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for that, the passing there had borne them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I marked the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference.
Unitarian Universalists have a tendency to enjoy analysis and interpretation. They say that Unitarian Universalists like to read ahead while they sing hymns to see whether they agree with the words. And that's why they sing so badly. For me, that makes a good excuse. Of course, not all Unitarian Universalists sing badly. Many of you sing quite well, especially those of you who are in the choir. I do read hymns, though, the words, not the music. And I tend to choose hymns on that basis. However, I don't quite agree with all the words of the first song we sang this morning. Mostly I like the words a lot, but there's just one phrase I find troubling. It's the very last line, even to question is an answer. Questions are critical to our way of faith as Unitarian Universalists. Questioning is one of the tools that's useful, if not essential, in searching for truth. But questioning, it seems to me, is not an answer in and of itself. Sometimes, as the song also notes, answers are elusive. Some questions are unanswerable, in the sense that no one can really know the true answers to the eternal questions. What happens to our essence after we die? Is God an entity or a force? Or does God exist at all? The true answer may be this one from a bumper sticker. Militant agnostic. I don't know, and you don't either. But that doesn't mean we don't try to figure out what the answers are, at least in a way that makes sense to us. And many questions have more than one answer, depending on how you think about it, or who is doing the thinking. Which brings me to ambiguity. The title of today's sermon, You Can't Go Wrong with Ambiguity, came out of a conversation I had a few years ago with a congregant who was going to be leading a Unitarian Universalist worship service for recruits at the Great Lakes Naval Training Center on Easter Sunday. He was trying to figure out how to talk about Jesus with the young sailors who would be his audience in a way that would make sense to them and would be authentic to his own non-Christian humanist beliefs. I was telling him about a children's book I really like about the last days of Jesus. The book describes the reappearance of Jesus to his followers after his death in a way that allows for an interpretation that could be literal or could be figurative. One of the concluding lines of the book is, "In his love, Jesus lived on." I said that I really liked the book's ambiguousness. And my parishioner Riley responded, "You can't go wrong with ambiguity." That seemed to me like the sort of aphorism that should be in a fortune cookie, or maybe cross-stitched and hung on a wall, or maybe the title of a sermon. So here we are. You can't go wrong with ambiguity, or can you? Ambiguity can be a literary device. A book on literary criticism from 1930 titled 7 Types of Ambiguity defines it as any verbal nuance, however slight, which gives room for alternative reactions to the same piece of language. Ambiguity can be intentional or unintentional. And inadvertently or intentionally, ambiguity can be the source of humor or mystery. Some situations are inherently ambiguous and cannot, by their very natures, be disambiguated. The circumstances could mean this or that, and we cannot know whether one or the other is the correct interpretation. As a liberal religionist, I have a high tolerance, maybe even a fondness for ambiguity. The term liberal causes some confusion, even in those of us who would call ourselves religious liberals. Religious liberals are not always political liberals, although today's politics confuses things even more. One of the commonalities between liberal religion and liberal politics seems to be a higher tolerance for ambiguity among liberals than among their conservative counterparts. There seems to be commonality, not necessarily in what liberals think, but in how they think. According to years of studies that looked at political speeches, texts of Supreme Court decisions, and laboratory simulations, it has been found that liberals display more of the traits linked with complexity of thought, such as recognizing viewpoints other than their own and integrating all points of view into a final opinion. One psychologist notes that there's an assumption that more complex is better because it reflects a more sophisticated view of reality. But when reality is actually cut and dried, complexity denotes confusion. Tolerance for ambiguity is not necessarily a virtue. Studies in the neurobiology of liberals and conservatives, also in the realm of politics, have found differences in brain structure. Specifically, that greater liberalism was associated with increased gray matter volume in the anterior cingulated cortex, whereas greater conservatism was associated with increased volume of the right amygdala. Yes. Yet another study found that the differing cognitive styles of political liberals and conservatives linked to differences in the way the brain processes information carries over into other aspects of thinking. So it's possible that for religious liberals, our tolerance for ambiguity is part of our neurobiology, that our appreciation for gray areas is the result of increased gray matter volume in the anterior cingulated cortex. So it is a religious liberal. Unitarian Universalist theologian James Luther Adams, in an essay titled Guiding Principles for a Free Faith, identified characteristics of religious liberals. Liberal religion affirms the individual's freedom of choice in religious matters. There is responsibility in such choice. Implications include rejection of a body-spirit dualism that is so conceived as to enable persons to claim that they are not responsible for what is done by one's body. Liberals affirm that history is real. There is relational responsibility in a community. Liberal religion denies that religion is purely individual, spiritual relationship between God and the soul. Rather, individuals exist in and are responsibly related to a community. Liberals affirm the possibility of new, important religious ideas coming from persons in that community. A related definition is that liberal religion is free from previously accepted certainties. Liberals affirm the importance of reason in maintaining the integrity of decisions, actions, and beliefs. Aspirationally, I would add the one about recognizing viewpoints other than their own and integrating all points of view into a final opinion, which are characteristics identified with liberal complexity of thought. So it's not just that we are brainier than anybody else, or even footsier, to use Dr. Seuss's language, but our brain cells may be distributed differently. In his essay on intellect, our Unitarian forebear Ralph Waldo Emerson made a distinction between those who love truth and those who love repose. The way Emerson defined those terms, one who loves truth would be the religious liberal, and one who loves repose would be the religious conservative. According to Emerson, those in whom the love of repose predominates will accept the first creed they meet. In contrast, those in whom the love of truth predominates will keep themselves aloof from all moorings and afloat. They will abstain from dogmatism and recognize all the opposite negations, between which, as walls, their being is strung. They submit to the inconvenience of suspense and imperfect opinion, but they are candidates for truth. I like the idea of being a candidate for truth, as long as that truth doesn't have a capital T and allows for the possibility of multiple truths. I even like the inconvenience of suspense and imperfect opinion. Personally, I will admit that I like adventures in ambiguity. Essayist Annie Dillard quotes Trappist monk Thomas Merton. There's always the temptation to diddle around in the contemplative life, making itsy-bitsy statues. I would paraphrase that, at least for me, there is always the temptation to diddle around in itsy-bitsy ideas, or even to diddle around in big ideas. There is always the temptation to get lost in creative tension of ambiguity in the gray areas of thought. Was it Yogi Berra who said, "When you come to a fork in the road, take it"? When we are faced with ambiguity, we are faced with a challenge to disambiguate or to hold the ambiguity in creative tension. Some ambiguities are, I think I made this word up, but maybe it's a real word. Some ambiguities are undisambiguatable. And creative tension keeps us in the realm of possibility. But sometimes when we come to a fork in the road, we need to take it. We need to go somewhere rather than nowhere. We need to take action rather than getting stuck. Harking back to Robert Frost's poem, my daughter has a lithograph on her wall that reads, "Yellow woods are where I leave the forking road to make my own damn path." Sometimes we need to pick a road or find our own way. Tools available to us include reason, emotion, conscience, and experience. So ask lots of questions, tolerate ambiguity up to a point, find some answers, and when you come to a fork in the road, take it. And now I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join in singing one of my very favorite hymns, Sing Out Praises for the Journey, number 295. When we take fire from our chalice, it does not become less, it becomes more. And so we extinguish our chalice, but we take its light and warmth with us, multiplying their power by all of our lives and sharing it with the world. May we live our lives fully and creatively so that we may be a blessing to ourselves, to each other, and to all those whose lives we touch. Please take a moment for reflection as you listen to the postlude.